Imagine what it would be like to give up your identity. You could shut off your cell phone for good and leave those emails from your boss unanswered. But is it possible in the age of Facebook and Twitter to completely vanish and start a new life? Our next guest wanted to find out. Evan Ratliff tried to disappear for 1 month and then offered a reward if someone could find him. And you can read all about his experience in this month's issue of Wired magazine. Evan, good morning.
Good morning.
So tell us, why did you decide to do this? It's such an interesting thing.
Well, I've been fascinated for a long time with the idea of people who totally reinvent themselves, people especially who fake their own deaths, or people who abandon one life and start a new life. So I had done a story about someone who did that, someone who faked their own death by drowning, pretending to drown, and then disappearing for a few months. And that didn't quite get at the sort of emotional heart of what we were interested in, which was, what is it really like to do that? So we decided to set up a contest, Wired and myself, where I would do it, and they would offer a reward, a kind of bounty on my head for doing it, and then some of that money would come out of my own pocket. So I would experience what it was like to kind of go on the lam.
And there was an emotional component to it, because when you're on the lam, you're feeling all these different feelings that you probably never expected, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I basically severed contact with everyone that I knew, so I was completely isolated, except for exchanging the occasional message with a few people. So I was in this world where there were a lot of people looking for me, thousands of people at different times looking for me, and I was completely paranoid about where they were and how close they were to me, and sort of my whole life while I was on the run was, I was engrossed in this act of like trying to escape from them. And
part of it was to change your appearance, and we have some photographs that you took of yourself as you're making your way through that month. And so explain to us what you did.
That's what I looked like when I started. A couple months before the contest began, I grew out my hair a little bit, and I grew out that sort of scraggly beard as best I could, and that was kind of my baseline look, which I then changed into, this is kind of my Las Vegas look. I went through Las Vegas and I slicked back my hair. I had those glasses sort of specially made, they're prescription glasses, and shaved my beard into a goatee and dyed it all. And then this was my sort of disguised masterpiece, I felt like, where I shaved the top of my head and then put tanning cream on it so it wouldn't look too pale. I had a different pair of fake glasses, and then I had contacts which changed the color of my eyes. And then you can see I went down to the mustache.
And if someone didn't know you, it'd be really hard to pick you out of a crowd. And so you had a whole bunch of people looking for you. How did they do that? Because I understand there were, Facebook groups dedicated to this. There was all kinds, this whole inner society looking for you. There was
sort of an organic community that grew up around looking for me. So people would exchange clues on social networking sites like Facebook. They had a page, and there were, thousands and thousands of members. And then on Twitter, they would exchange ideas about how to find me, where they thought I was that day, where they thought I'd been. They would make calls and then post the information. I called this hotel, and they had an Evan Ratliff there at a certain time. So that was how they were communicating at first. And then they also went into more secret chat rooms because they were afraid that I was looking on those same sites, and I was seeing how close they were, which was true.
Is it scary to think how much information they can get about you? Because they even got to know the name of your cat sitter, all your real life information.
There was a lot of information that I was pretty careful in the months up before it started, and trying to assess, well, how much information can they actually find on me? And I was surprised at some of the things they found. The cat sitter was one. Anything that I had reviewed online, I'd gone online and said, oh, this cat sitter is really great. Everybody else in San Francisco where I was living, you should all hire her if you have a cat. And then they found that, then they contacted her, trying to figure out more information about me, where I might be. So that, my car mechanic, anything that was connected to me online, they were able to piece together.
And so tell us sort of the end of the month. I felt like you were leaving a little bit, little extra clues around, or I don't know, maybe in hopes that someone would find you. And these two people got really close, and then what happened?
Well, basically they tracked me using my internet address, and a guy in Seattle did it, and then he tracked me to New Orleans, where I had sort of settled down in New Orleans. I had rented an apartment, and I felt like I was going to last the rest of the time there. But this guy in Seattle, his name's Jeff Reifman, he actually tracked me to New Orleans, enlisted a pizza place called Naked Pizza to go out on the street and look for me, and they caught me. Partly because I was taking some extra chances. Wired had sort of upped the ante a little and said if I did one thing every day, I could win more money in the end, so that helped expose me a little bit more.
All All right, very interesting. Evan Ratliff, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.